YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to another Advanced MX5 track guide. It's week number 8, I think. We're at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. It's the historic layout. It's a bit of a monster, this one, I'm not going to lie. So many different lines because it's a nice, big, wide racetrack for such a small car. Without any further ado, let's jump into the setup and the track conditions. Yeah! So once again, as usual, a big thanks to VRS for the track conditions. We have ambient temperature of 22 degrees Celsius and the track is 23, so it's fairly cool. What time of day are we? 19:25, so nearly 7:30 in the evening, and obviously 50% moderate usage. As for the setup, we have the Daveyskills Catalunya setup. Fairly standard, to be honest with you. I've gone for soft bump, stiff rebound. Not much to say other than I've managed to get the firm roll bar in this time. Obviously, it's a racetrack, you make the car very stiff. With that being said, let's jump into the lap. Alright then, so here we are with the in-depth track guide. As you can see, the fastest lap I've got in the session is a .720, a 2-minute .720. Unfortunately, it's not clean. Breaking into the first turn, I ran a little bit too far wide, got a 1x. Same with the .780, so the fastest time is at .871. Not ideal, there's definitely some mistakes in this, but I'm going to tell you what they are, tell you how to hopefully correct these, and we'll learn, we'll figure this out together. So heading down the massive start-finish straight, we're in 5th gear, hurtling towards turn number 1. Let's get rid of the lap count there. And if we just roll this forward, what I'm looking at here is these little lights. I think they're lights just before the 100 board. That's what I use as my braking point. Now obviously, we're in 5th gear, going pretty much as fast as you can in the MX5. So we're going to be braking very hard initially. We're going to be dropping down to 3rd gear. And you're going to straddle this red and white curve. If we play it slowly, as you can see, we pass those two little lights and we're braking hard, but trying to keep it smoothly. The ABS is going to kick in because we're on an uneven surface. Back end's getting a bit loosey-goosey. You need to be prepared to control the car as you're decelerating. And then as we get closer to the turn, essentially, we're going to start turning. Obviously, wow, that's why you watch these track guides, isn't it? When you get close to the turn, turn. Anyway, rolling this forward very slowly now. As we begin to turn, we're going to start coming off the brakes. Our goal here is to straddle this yellow sausage curve that you maybe can just see now. And you've just got to play it by ear, really, or by eye, I guess. Wow, I'm on fire today. Judge your speed, judge the angle of the car, whether you are going to straddle this yellow sausage curve. If you are, get on the power. If you're not, stay off the power. So your car can decelerate a little bit more. But basically, you need to be on the power as soon as possible. At this point, I begin putting the power on, and that's before we get to this green AstroTurf. So it is very, very early on. If we do watch this corner through, as you can see, I get on the power. Everything's looking fine and dandy, but then we get a smidge of understeer, and bang, we hit the sausage curb. So this compromises the left-hander, the second turn, as well as the third turn, the long right-hander. So basically the whole first section's compromised just because I clipped that sausage curb. So if I were to decelerate a kilometre, 2 kilometres an hour more going into this turn, that would have been perfect. Unfortunately, I was a bit too eager to get on the power, and as you can see, it unsettles the car. It kicks us onto this curb here, just earlier than we want to be. It's okay to be on the curb about here, but not as early as we were. So if we just go back, as you can see, I have to lift because the back end of the car is going to start stepping out on me. I need to lift to keep the car stable. If I didn't hit the sausage curb and I straddled it, I would have been able to keep the car flat through here. So as you can see, it's then going to send us out onto the green stuff, which is going to compromise this long right-hander. So whilst we lift, I've completely lost my train of thought there. So whilst even if we nail turn 1, we would still lift for turn 3. The lift we have to make on this particular lap because of our earlier mistake is far greater than what it would be if we nailed it all. So that's where at least 1/10 has been lost. If we watch it back in full speed, look out for the braking point here. Braking hard, down to 3rd gear, turning in, coasting, spotting that sausage curb, trying to avoid it and get on the power nice and early, and then we just want to keep it pinned. Try and get the car hugging the curb on the inside here and just keep on the power as much as you possibly can. You will naturally drift out to the outside as we go through the turn. Now we're heading into another difficult turn, really. Difficult in one sense where there are so many lines to pick from, But at the same time, you don't really lose too much time if you understand what line you've ended up on. I hope that makes sense. I feel as though the words are coming out of my mouth, but it's absolute wham today. Anyway, coming into this turn, looking for our braking point, we've got this little line here. Obviously, we're going to be straddling the yellow and black curb. We're going to be braking at this line, braking from fourth gear down to third, and essentially as soon as we get to this line, we brake, we shift down, we turn. We're aiming to get our car as close to this curb on the inside. So bang, braking quite hard initially, but then we're going to start to come off the brakes as we get closer to the curb. We want our car to rotate. And then when your car's sort of matched up with the curb, that's when you begin to apply the power. Now, if you've slowed your car down too much, too early, you're gonna get on the power too early, so you're gonna end up understeering all the way out wide. The goal is to keep the car nice and tight. As I say, you need to understand and anticipate what line you're going to be on. You know, how much you're slowing the car down as you're going into the turn, because you want this to be a smooth transition between slowing down, you begin to bleed off the brakes, and then you begin to put the power back on as you sort of go into the turn. I'm really struggling to explain this, but it's just a feeling that I've got on Catalunya. As you're going into these long corners, you begin to come off the brakes, you begin to apply the power. Because we're in the MX5, we can be quite aggressive with the power, but it does make a massive difference if you just go to 70% first. You'll get a lot more rotation. So as you can see, we're just on the curb, and then we go full power. This will initiate a smidge of understeer because I've slammed on the power, but because we've slowed down to probably a little bit too much, if I'm being perfectly honest, we've been able to keep the car nice and tight on the exit. And even though we've overslowed, because we're taking this shorter line here, we're going to be shaving time off any sort of personal best we've got if it's taking a wider line with perhaps more speed. So all that being said, if you've managed to figure out what I've said there, the point is the tighter line on the exit is better because we're going to leave it in third anyway. As we go into the next turn, we're not going to shift to fourth, so we don't even need top speed because we're going to be limited by the top of third gear. So if we just bring this back, the key points, the braking point, just here, the turning point, just here, and the downshift point, it's all just here. We're just going to do it all at one point. That is the key point. And then remember, aim for the curb and begin to bleed off the brakes to keep the car tight to the curb. So bang, down to third. And then ease the power back on. There we go, bang. We're keeping the car nice and tight. We're leaving in third gear as we go into the next turn. As you can hear, boom. So it just doesn't matter about the exit speed as much as any other corner. Roll it back a few frames. Braking point for this turn, it's very awkward this turn. As you can see, there's some dirt on the track there, on the asphalt. It's quite difficult to see. You might be able to see it better at full speed, just here. If you can see that just there. When our car is at that point, that's when we brake. We're downshifting down to second gear. Now this downshift can be lethal because we are on the curb. I don't really like to use the Astro too much. You start risking throwing a tyre in the dirt. Along with this downshift, this early downshift to second gear, the back end just wants to spin. So it's very, very good if you can control it because your car's going to have lovely rotation going through the corner. But if you get it slightly wrong, it can be game over. So if we just watch it, braking fairly hard initially down to second gear, but then we're going to come off the brakes quite quickly. We're going to begin trail braking. The goal is to keep the car tight to the curb. I'd say I'd probably get too much to the curb, if I'm being honest. I'd much rather prefer my car to be a bit further down this curb. I don't like getting on top of the curb. It completely messes with your exit. And what you'll notice is I'm quite smooth on the power compared to normal, up to about 65-70%. This is because the back end's very lively as we go through this corner. we're up to third gear quite quickly, and you can use almost every single inch of this runoff, so please use it because you will need to, especially during a race. So we just watch this back, spotting the braking point, which is the dirt just here, braking down to second gear, trail braking, easing on the power to try and counteract that oversteer. As you can see, small little correction on the wheel there as well, and we're up to third gear using all the runoff. Then we take the shortest line possible to the next turn, and this next turn is very, very difficult. As you can see, we're up into fourth gear by the time we get to the turn. Braking point is this red and white curb. You will want to brake on the curb. You're going to drop it down to third gear, braking quite hard, and you need to be on the brakes until your car starts to rotate. There's nothing much more I can say other than when you're on the curb, you begin to brake and turn at the same time, and you'll know when your car begins to attack this curb, that's when you need to come off the brakes. And the goal is to get the car turned in as early as possible and then get on the power as early as possible. But it's very, very tricky. If you take too much of this curb, what will happen is you will get sent off over these ways and you'll get a 1x. I ruined so many laps by just taking too much of this Astro. As you can see, I do take a lot. We straddle these sausages and then just boink, give them a little love tap as we go over them. And then we are heading towards the flat out right-hander. But if we go back to this corner, things to bear in mind, braking where the red and white curb is, using that as our turning point as well, and holding onto the brake until our car really begins to rotate. Hopefully you can see this as we go into it full speed. Braking, turning, boom, there, I hope you saw that. It happens so quick, but when you're driving, you can really feel it. Down to third gear, we're turning, and bang, the car's just turned. I come off the brakes, and then power. The goal certainly is to be on the power before you hit the curb. I'd say that is a key point. And be very careful of the runoff on exit. Now this flat out right-hander, there's not too much to say other than you use the end of the curb as your key, your visual aid to turn in. You're going to keep the car flat in third gear. There's a sausage curb here. You don't want to hit that. You want to stay on the power until just about half a second after you've come off the curb. Then you lift. This should then get your car rotating, and you're going to want to hit the curb after this sausage curb. If we watch it back, bang, just miss the sausage curb, get up on the green stuff. That's going to keep your lap clean. It's going to mean that you don't get sent too far wide on exit, and you're going to carry a lot of speed coming through the corner. You can use this bit of the Astro. However, if you use this bit of the Astro here, you will get a 1x. Bang, there we go, perfect. Watch it again full speed, so remembering we're keeping it flat for about half a second after we follow this angle back onto the track, and then we lift, and then back on the power. Our goal is to avoid the sausage curb. Apex, get on the curb after that sausage curb. Lift, attack, and power. And then we're up to fourth gear, and then down. I guess this is the back straight, heading into the historic hairpin, I guess we call this. Braking point, 50 metre board. We have this stanchion, sign, awning, don't know what to call it. We're going to be braking just before these things. Obviously you've got this gravel trap. After this gravel trap is where you want to brake. It's a very difficult braking point if I'm being honest, and on this lap, I get it wrong. We're braking down to second gear, and you want to really attack this curb on the inside. What you'll notice is I miss the curb. I miss the apex. Not ideal. I do get on the power very early, shift up to third gear nice and early, and this is going to allow me to cut back, and this is the only saving grace of this corner on this lap, is I managed to get tight to this curb on the exit, which means I'm saving time. Things I'd change is just brake earlier. Where I brake here, where is it? Let's watch. Bang, there. So I'm braking too late. I'd say I need to be braking now. It's literally a couple of frames That's the only difference. But it made a massive difference. As you can see, I just understeer wide. If I was close to the curb as I apexed and I was able to cut it back here, that would have been perfect. But moving on, you should line your car up nicely on the left hand side of the track for this really awkward long right-hander. We're going to leave it in third gear and we're just going to turn in as we get to this curb and then begin to brake as we get to this bit of the curb. So we're turning in, we begin to come off the power and then just cover the brake. That's about 40%, at most 35% maybe, and we're just trail braking, then coasting. The goal is to get the car on the curb and on the power nice and early. We also need to avoid this sausage curb as well. The curb, if you get on the power on the curb, it should help your car rotate and avoid you understeering wide on exit. However, you just need to get the balance right. If you slow down too early, you will understeer wide on exit. If you slow down too late, you're just going to lose far too much time, basically. But the good news is, because we're trail braking, we're braking so gently, we've got a lot of flexibility. We can adjust as we go. So I'd say on this lap, I do get the turn quite good. What are we slowing down to here? The slowest speed is about 94. Yeah, 94 kilometers an hour. So that's just a little barometer for you. Something to bear in mind. If you are one of those people who likes to look at speeds, 94 kilometers an hour is what I slowed down to, and I got my car nicely hooked up on the curb and I was able to stay flat. What I will say is, the runoff I used here, I have absolutely no idea how I didn't get a 1x. Every other time I've even heard my car touch the gravel on the exit of this turn, I've received a 1x, but on this lap I didn't. No idea how. And then we're heading into the final two corners. This second last one, it's flat out. Turn in early. You want to get the left-hand side tyres on this curb. I sort of missed the curb a little bit, which means I probably lose about half a tenth on this corner. For some reason, you can completely cut the turn and not get a 1x or a slowdown. But be very careful. If you get a bit too aggressive, you will get that slowdown. As I say, get those wheels on the curb. And then we're heading into the last turn very, very quickly. We have this sausage curb, which I actually like to use to just throw my car into the corner. On this lap, I don't get it perfect by any means. But what I do is, as I'm approaching the end of the sausage curb, I begin to lift off the throttle, bounce off the curb, and then just cover the brakes slightly. There we go. And then this should set you up nicely to basically hug this curb on the inside. Now, as you can see, I was a bit too aggressive and my car ended up straddling the curb. This generated a bit of understeer, bit of scrub. Basically, I just didn't carry the correct amount of speed through the corner. I was losing time all the way through it. The exit was nice and clean, and then we crossed the line. But as I say, the goal is to maybe be a bit less aggressive as we bounce off the curb, maybe brake a little bit less, and you just want your car to be sliding up to about this point. You want your right-hand tyres to be on the red and white stuff, and then you can really get on the power, and you'll just come through the last turn nicely and cross the line. And there we have a 2-minute 0.871. As always, if you would like to set up the blap file, the olap file, or the telemetry data of this lap, then please join the Discord, link in the description down below. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next week.